evening, everyone. Monday, January 27th, 2025. This is the Miller Beach City Council work session. And please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Renee, would you please call the roll?
Councilmember Frank Bankert.
Here.
Councilmember Todd Harper.
Here.
Councilmember Kim Shaw Elliott.
Present.
Councilmember Anders Wellings.
Here.
Vice Mayor Lloyd Roberts.
Here.
Mayor Dave Gaddis.
Here.
City Manager Kyle Riefler.
Here.
And City Attorney Randy Mora.
Present.
All right, welcome everyone. I hope you enjoyed your last month's work session off. And now it's new year, so we're back to work. So let's get started with item number 1, which is a presentation and discussion of the 9th Street pump project from Gemini Engineering. Take it away, Gemini.
Hello, everyone. Let me see, how can I?
And is your microphone on?
Yep. Second now. Yeah, let me get closer. Better?
I can hear you now.
Okay.
I don't see anything yet. Oh, there we go.
Okay, perfect. Can you guys hear me good?
Yeah. It's picking up, trying.
Hello.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so. Good night, everybody.
It's cutting out.
My name is Barbara Navarro, and I'm here with Gemini Engineering to go over the 9th Street Stormwater Pump Station design. So this project comes for the need that, as you guys all know, you are dealing with two issues, not only stormwater flooding, but also high tides. And it becomes a little bit more complicated when you have a stormwater event and then that's combined at the same time of a high tide. What's occurring is that this water that pumps in the street cannot leave or cannot be discharged into the intercoastal in a timely manner because we need to wait for the tide to go down to allow for that stormwater to flow out to the intercoastal. So a possible solution for these is to pump that water out during high tide events. These pumping
Keep talking, let me try something.
Okay.
Kyle, it's impossible that you can turn the speakers on back here also.
Yeah, now I can hear back there too, it's better.
Better now?
Much better.
Okay. So this pump, what it's trying to help, and just to make it very clear, is not to remove like peak discharge or like peak storms. This is just trying to remove like the localized standing water that you have on your roadways. The project location is just going to be right behind City Hall at the intersection of 9th and Harbor. And currently, this area drains from county right away, which is going to be Gulf Boulevard, to the east around the cul-de-sac. And one of the problems that we have here, and the reason why we're seeing this standing water is because there are a few inlets in this area, but the outfall to the intercoastal right now has a backflow preventer or a WAPRO check valve. So of course, we're back to the issue. The high tide comes, now I can hear myself.
Yeah, we can hear you though, we can hear you fine.
Wait, how can I,
You're good?
Mute your computer.
I guess I have that. Okay. I think that's better. Alrighty, we're good now?
Yeah.
Okay. So, as I was saying, we're back to the same issue. You have a drainage system, but then you're limited again by the high tide and being able to get this water out because you're trying to prevent the high tide getting into your system. So the alternative is to reroute this water through a different outfall that is going to be actually at the same location that the pond that you guys have here in the back. There's going to be like the same area. There are several concerns about the location of the pond because we have very limited right of way. We're trying to utilize existing drainage systems, so we don't have to put like too many or to add additional infrastructure of what you already have. And we are also trying to deal with like all the underground and above ground utilities that you have, as well as existing trees in the area. So if we go to the plans and if you go to, I'm gonna put it here on the screen, but if we go over here, these give you, oh, can you guys see my screen, the plans? No.
About half of it.
Turn around, look.
She's
You-
looking
yeah,
at a
you can see what
different
you can see
screen.
there. You can see in those corners too what you're seeing. What you're projecting.
I'll just stop sharing and I'll share again because that helps.
Sure.
Okay, there you go. Alright, so these aligns with, it's gonna be like almost the last page of the plan set that I gave you guys.
Yep.
So as you can see here, we are trying to use, or we're tapping into the existing manhole that is at the intersection of Harbor and 9. We are placing the well just around the area, trying to prevent relocating the existing utility pole that is over there. And then we are getting, rerouting this water all the way to the north and to this area. So that is the proposed outflow for this. This way we are preventing messing with the sanitary line and the reclaimed water and also the transformer that is in this area. The only thing that we will have to take consideration is that we are going to have to relocate slightly the existing potable water line that is in this area and the removal of 2 trees.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, we're slightly.
We're going to have to relocate in this area. Let me see if you can you guys see my cursor?
Yeah. Yeah.
This dash line is the potable water line, the existing potable water line that will need to be slightly shifted to accommodate for the well. At the same time, we have 2 existing trees in the area that those will need to come out. Besides that, the only other concern that we can foresee is, let me share my PowerPoint again. If we have time to load. It's going to be that besides the well, that is just going to look like a regular manhole for the area, it also have a control panel that I'll be trying to share again the PowerPoint. Let's see if this loads. Okay, it's going to be a control panel. It's not going to look exactly like this one, but something similar. And what we are trying to do is, like, because we understand that the looks are going to be a concern, landscape around the area, probably some bushes, to prevent creating that visual of the area. Besides that, what we are expecting right now is for this pump to run on average like 2 hours per month, higher during like the rainy season, of course, between 4 to 3 times every month. And we're thinking that this is gonna be running for the non-rainy season time is gonna be between 1 to 2 hours, 2 hours on average. During the rainy season is gonna be on average like 6 hours. And this is like the total for that month. Here is just a graph, so you can see like the hours usage per month that is expected. Again, like not necessarily like for as every single event is how long it's gonna run. It's just gonna vary slightly depending on how much water gets. And again, this is not trying to remove like big flows, like a very intense hurricane type of run. This is, storm. This is more for your mini-annual, your rainy season afternoon type of rainfall event.
Can you just, what does it say on the left? What's the vertical side of the graph read?
These are the hours.
And the, when is like max Like, what point are we straining the pump? Are we using like 70% of its capacity, 50% of its capacity?
Well, these are just the total per month, like, so if you
Okay.
have 2 events, it's gonna be like 4 times multiplied by 5 hours. So on average, we're thinking that it's gonna be around like 6 hours,
Okay.
like per event, in a high, like, summer rainfall afternoon type of event.
Okay, so it's just like an on-off pump?
Yeah.
It's not a variable speed pump, it's
Like a
a,
sub pump.
yeah, it's some, right, so it's just, right, it's just a fixed speed, it's on or off, like your AC, some ACs, right? Okay.
Right now, the cost estimate that we have, and if you flip to like the first page, like it's a single page that was given to you guys, it has the breakdown of the cost estimate for the area. For the project, this is including the maintenance, mobilization, the removal of the trees, the well itself, the first page, like if you go all the way in, yeah, that.
This chart here?
Yes, no,
Okay.
the table. It includes a breakdown of everything that is included, that is based on this configuration that we have right now. These are the costs that we are projecting. The only additional thing that we need to consider that is going to be between 2,500 to 3,000 is going to be a geotech study, because we want to make sure that the soil that in which we're going to place this well is going to be able to stand the pond. What we don't want is like build this and then the soil not having the capacity to handle the weight of that pond. Besides that, I don't know if you guys have any questions, comments,
Maybe.
concerns?
I have a question.
Yes.
So the location of the well,
Yeah.
is that the absolute lowest point of the flood zone? Is it so, let me step back. Whenever the water let's say that the check valves, they close, and we start having a torrential downpour, is the street going to fill and then spill into this, or is this well the lowest point possible?
What's going to happen is that the system is going to start to fill, and then it's going to start dumping into the pump, like spilling into the well.
So whenever this thing does its job and the well is empty, is it possible that there's still going to be water across the street?
There should be a significant reduction of the flooding that is spilled, like it shouldn't be extending through the whole street.
So
It might be very localized. in
So the streets are, I mean, it's obvious that the streets are the lowest point
Yeah.
of all the properties. But I guess my question is this absolutely the very lowest point that we could put this well? Or is there a better location for it?
We could put it, like ideally, we could put, like if we want to look at different locations, this could be another alternative, but the problem is that if we place it here, we have to deal with, it's gonna be a more direct view of like the panel, is also more reduced right away. We also have to deal with the reclaimed water, and up to this area, we have the transformer. So relocating that transformer is gonna be.
Okay, so in its current location,
Mm-hmm.
in inches, what do you think that once the pump shuts off, how much water is going to be left in the street?
In my opinion, it should only be a little bit on the curb, like the gutter per se.
Only in the gutters,
Only in the
not
gutters.
in the street itself.
Yeah.
Mr. Baker, go ahead.
So this is not going to flow into our regular stormwater system where you would have a well collecting anything over 30 inches, which is usually 2.8 feet, which closes the check valve. This is going to be a separate drain.
It's gonna be connected to the existing system, so
So-
water,
so-
yeah,
So to answer his question is there shouldn't be any water in the street.
Right, that's what I was
Because you're pumping it right out. If you were going to have just a dedicated drain to that, you're going to have water in the street. But the way that's the way I thought it was designed.
Yeah, I was thinking, is the well, although it might be at least the top of the well might be in the high spot, the bottom of the well
It doesn't matter, as long as it
is
collects the
low.
water after
Right.
30
Provided
inches.
that the
Providing the
drains-
line you know, that it can go from the one line over to that well and drop in there, and then, I'm assuming the pump is down at the bottom of the well, and everything that collects in there is gonna get kicked out, right?
The next page shows us,
And which?
So, yeah, you see the pipe, you see the inlet pump
Yeah,
pipe.
like in the next page, you guys can see the detail of the pump, like after the plans,
So what size discharge pipe?
8 inch, yeah.
18?
8.
8 inches.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what, I didn't think it was 18.
That's a big
So
pipe.
you're
The
talking-
18 pipe is just coming from the
18
existing,
inches now for drains.
Yeah.
Your sewer, your stormwater drains are 18 inches.
Yeah, it's coming in at 18, going out at 8,
So
but it's under
so
pressure.
8-inch discharge pipe would put out about 64,000 gallons of water an hour.
on average.
Is it limited by the pipe or the
Is that
pump?
a confirmation, yes?
Well, it works two ways. The pump can only force.
Right,
The pipe restricts, it's just like any pump.
No, I get it.
The higher you go, the less.
right, but I'm kind of figuring which thing is the limit. Is it, are we hitting like the,
Are we hitting the limit?
are we hitting the limit on the pipe and we just picked 8 inches for
Is it an 8-inch
Well,
pump?
it needs to be pressurized for the water to actually go out.
the
So-
pump to work properly?
Yeah,
Right,
yeah,
right, you need a little
yeah.
back pressure on it,
Yeah.
right, okay.
And the pump manufacturer recommends the outlet size. So
Okay,
they pick the pump based on the flow rate, and then they tell us the outlet.
Okay.
and what did we, so yeah, just to make sure, like, you know, Gaddis's point is clear. The place we've picked for this, I guess the lowest point drain, say on 9th Street, I think was right in front of, at the end of the circle, right? That's probably the lowest point, right? And there's a drain right there, right in front of,
The lowest point should be at her house, I hate to say it.
well, it's actually lower, isn't it? It's lower down,
Well, you're the highest and it goes down.
right,
Okay, so
Do we have a survey of the area?
yeah.
Yeah,
So, yeah,
it's
that's-
actually like if you see,
I mean,
like the
this
site plan, the site plans show the existing survey and the gray color.
Are you, I'm trying to figure out
So
where, which way.
this is, if you look at this very first page, it shows you the location, right? There's your project location, that's Harbor, right out here.
Yeah, I know, I figured that.
Nine. And then that's, and so you apply that here.
So
This is, yeah, this is Harbor and this is none.
The pump is,
Is the pump in the road or is it east?
well, this is the road, so it's in the east.
So it's gonna be in that neighbor corner's lot, the pump's gonna be right there?
I don't, well, the pump is, but.
And that's totally submerged and we don't see it?
No, the only thing that you will see is gonna be the panel.
Like,
And that we can landscape around
we'll
it.
see
So
like a
it's-
manhole
Yes.
cover, we'll see like a manhole cover and a big panel?
It'll be on that.
Pardon me?
Is that where the panel be?
It will be near the pump,
So near this circle somewhere?
yes,
Are you using WMI pumps?
yes, sir.
Yeah, they are the elite around here for like covering everything up, you can't see nothing.
So I'm kind of late to the game because I'm new on council, so I don't know if some of these questions have already been asked, but I'm going to assume, Kyle, that you've directed them to study this area, to find this. Is this a project that is only solving a problem at this intersection? Or is this a project that's solving bigger problems down in the neighborhood? Because it appears to me wherever you have a pump is where you're trying to solve the problem. Is that correct?
It solves primarily all of 9th Street, but some of the runoff from the east side area of 8th Street.
So have we done any geotechnical studies?
No.
Any of this?
That's the next step that we're gonna do. Like, we are gonna do the geotech needs to come to tell us if the soil has the condition to handle the well.
And you said that the pump would pump to our retention pond.
No. Like, the outfall is near the same outfall of the retention pond.
So
Like,
out in the.
yes, so if you
Yeah, right
see here on the plans, this is the existing outfall of the pond.
Okay, so
And,
you're not discharging into
No.
our pond?
no. I'm just
That's
like,
what I thought you said, right?
yeah, no, and the line is just running parallel. Like, the pipe for the
Mhm.
pump is parallel to the outfall pipe of the pump, the saltwater pump. As you can see
This is
over
our
here.
pond
So
right
this is
here,
a
right?
closed system, we're not looking at, because there's an open pipe there that goes
That's
under the
this drain
street.
right here, right?
Yeah,
It's not part of that.
it's not, it's independent, yeah, we're not connecting to the existing, like,
It's a
outfall for
pipe
the
in
pump.
that, is a pipe in that system? Is that what it is, that's what
I
So,
think it's just parallel, look at the existing drain. That's the
Oh,
existing
yeah.
drain.
Yeah.
Thank you, gotcha, got it, got
And
it.
this is the parallel you're gonna put in, and I guess the crosshatch is going under the drain, under the road, is all I'm saying.
yeah, so right now that's just showing like the limits of the roadway restoration, like if we need to do like an open cut.
I know everyone's
Yeah, very curious.
really into this and knowledgeable, but let's let our guests answer the questions.
Okay.
Because they're professionals. and
Sure.
That's what we're paying them for. So if anyone has any questions, direct them to our guests.
Well, related to that, if I could ask, since we haven't met you before, so could you introduce yourself and your credentials and your role in this project?
Yeah, so my name is Barbara Nogueira with Gemini Engineering. I'm the technical engineer lead for this project right now. We are a company based in Jacksonville, and we have worked with the city of Bel Air for a few years already. We're actually the ones that did the design for the mill resurfacing of 9th Hall to Morgan Drive. Here with me, we have Ted Cisak. He is one of our lead engineers in the Jacksonville office, and Mr. Keepak, also the president of the company.
Very good. And I'm sorry, you're an engineer also?
Yes.
Thank you.
Who else has
I
questions?
assumed that.
What are the expected maintenance costs of the pump on an ongoing basis?
That is something that we were discussing with Cal, and we will get back to you to give you the exact numbers on what the cost will be. We do know after talking with Bill in NWI that it is expected that every 5 to 7 years, the pump will need to be maintained. Basically, like they will have to pull it out and just make sure that all the parts are working well and nothing needs to be replaced. One of the things that he told us to keep in mind, this microphone, one of the things that, can I talk out of the microphone or then people want to?
Right there's good.
That again? Okay.
Right, go ahead.
So one of the things that he was mentioning to keep an eye on is that once you see an increase on your electric bill, probably also a good time to do maintenance, because if it's demanding more energy, there's probably something in there that is not making it function well.
So I'm going to assume similar to lift stations. I mean,
Yes.
Lift pumps all over the state of Florida.
Yeah.
They require a lot of maintenance, and there's a lot of regular maintenance that has to be done. So I'm going to say, they don't pump salt water. They pump other things, but they're not pumping salt water. So just, some things that I know there's costs associated when those pumps go out. They're expensive to replace. They're expensive to repair and maintain. And it's just something we really need to get a solid
I will follow.
lift station. Yeah.
No, I said, is this a sludge type of pump?
Well, that one is going to be pumping sludge because it's going to be pumping all the stuff
But
that comes through
did
our
she say
sewer
that?
system.
Because there's two different pumps.
Well,
There's one
it's
that does
gonna be-
salt water and there's one that does both, which may.
But I'm saying,
Again, let's direct, if you have any questions, ask
it's
our
just a
guests.
question to think about. Let's look at that.
Yeah, absolutely. We're definitely going to get back with you guys on that.
And then I know this one last, just food for thought. We're taking all this water off the street, we're pumping it a few feet down the road and back over the seawall. It's just gonna fall back over the seawall, back to, is this a never-ending cycle?
No, that's not what this project is designed for. The pump should not even come on whenever it turns into a higher than the seawall. Is that correct?
Yeah, these, as I say, these are like, if you have a high level flooding, the pump is not for peak stages. I think on 7th Street, you have a different project that is trying to mitigate that, correct me if I'm wrong, that you actually have a dual pump, so it's trying to solve like peak discharge. This one is a single pump that is just helping to alleviate the standing water. Like during hurricane seasons, for example, definitely that pump will need to be shut down.
And this particular project is, it's not going to solve all of our problems. I think it's actually more of a case study. Would you?
Yeah, it's like a
consider that?
pilot, we're doing
Consider
a
it
pilot.
to be that way?
pilot
It's to to find out if it's actually feasible to do this, because if it works, and it works for one part of the neighborhood, then it's possible that we may expand the project, but this is something that we've all talked about for a long time. Some of the homes are going to be knocked down, some of them are going to be raised, some, and then some of them are going to stay, and the problem is still not going away. So I'm all for it, just to see how well it does work. Nothing's free, but I think that we owe it to our city to try to solve a problem, which we do have a serious problem on the south side. Mr. Roberts.
Thank you, Randy. Yeah, with any engineering approach, you're going to be making assumptions with regards to how we're going to approach it. So I'm going to assume that the assumptions that you guys made are good, and I see no reason not to assume that. I'm going to assume that all the design and the calculations also good. I guess my number one concern is the amount of money that we're spending is rather significant. And Kyle and I had some conversations previously in this area with regards to, if we look back 12 months, just as a timetable, how many times would we think that we would be in a scenario with a high tide and a rain event that would be significant enough that it couldn't get out the normal stormwater system? How many days out of the year might that be? So we know, for example, that any day it didn't rain at all, off. So out of 365 days, where are we with regards to how many times we think this pump system will come into play? Now, there's also to take into account, once it hits that high tide number, I've talked to people who live in that area that and by the way, in my opinion, the street is part of the stormwater system. Water in the street does not mean your stormwater system is failing. It's actually part of the stormwater system. Now, if it goes way over the curb and halfway up the yard, that's a different story. So, and I've talked to the people who live in those streets, and they said when they do have those rare events where we get a huge rain event and a high tide, it starts backing up, may come over the curb, may come in the front yard a little bit, but then as soon as the high tide starts to go down, they said you can actually hear the siphoning as it's going out the stormwater system, heading out the pipe, and into the intercoastal. So I guess that's one of the bigger things I'm taking a look at, where to spend, again, which I think is a significant amount of money potentially. And how many times a year will that actually, now we don't have the crystal ball to look forward, but we could look historically and see how often that has been if we took 12 months and look backwards. Because that's the part I have an issue with. I mean, it's our job, of course, to spend money properly. And,
I think that there was actually, she did the study.
well,
Yeah, I'm trying to share that again.
I heard what she was doing at the beginning, approximately how many times a year the pump, was that based on historical data?
Yes, it was historical data that we went through for each month and saw that when there was like a rainfall event significant enough with a high tide. And those are the estimates that we have right now. So during the non-rainy season, it's going to be an average of like 2 to 3 days per month. And then on the rainy season, like for June through September, is like about 4 times per month.
So did we assume a certain number of inches of rain per hour in order for, without the pump system, the water would come halfway up
At
the
least
yard?
1 inch of rain.
1 inch of rain per hour?
Rain, like we're assuming that for all of these events that we calculated was like about 1 inch of rain fell
Okay.
in the area.
And we think if it was high tide and that 1 inch of rain hit the streets, what's the most damage that would cause? 1 inch of rain, because it doesn't sound like a lot. 1 inch of rainfall, I'm not visualizing it.
When I've seen them on our street,
Pardon?
when I've seen our street, the neighbors, the water's in their garage. The water's in their garage, but it's not all from the rain, it's because the back valves don't fully stop the water. and it doesn't go over the edge. It goes through from the high tide. It's not a perfect check valve. But it would
It's
jump
backflowing into the street.
and it's backflowing in the street. That builds the base water level. And then 1 inch of rain, 2 inches of rain, whatever, is enough, plus a car driving down the road, throws waves blowing in and puts water in people's garages.
And you make the point that I've always stressed, and I don't care if you lift your house and you live in a high house or whatever like that, but when Idalia hit us, we had 2 to 3 feet of water in the street
Right,
up till 4 o'clock in the afternoon.
right,
Low tide started coming in at 9 o'clock in the morning.
right,
So, an EMS vehicle, how does it get down?
right,
Okay? The December storm of 2023,
right.
we had the same thing. And that's when I decided to run again. But this is a safety concern for everyone. Okay, if you can't, I've talked to Chief Davis and he says, well, we do have, big vehicles that we can get down in there and everything like that. But you have to pull them out and it's time consuming.
Yeah, I mean, there's days where, there's a couple things that days where I saw there was no rainstorm.
That's what I was
There
gonna
was
say.
no rain, it was a sunny day out,
That's a good point.
and there was a foot of water in the street.
At 9 o'clock tonight, we'll have a 2.9 tide. If somebody was pumping their pull out, you'd have water in your street.
That's right. And
Just water, just nice sunny night, or sunny
And
day.
then everybody's also forgotten about whenever we lost power on the pumping stations.
Yeah,
And it wasn't even a storm.
right.
Also, the pumping stations went down for the sewer and all the streets completely filled. They
Right.
were even on the north side of the bridge, completely
Yeah.
flooded out.
Yeah.
And that would certainly take care of that problem also, so.
when there's 2 feet of water in the street and people driving their vehicles down the street, that's a safety hazard. I mean, they're ruining their vehicles.
Could be damaging your
People
vehicle.
actually drive through that. But in the event of any kind of emergency, that you can't have that. That is.
All right, so do we have any other questions?
I have
for Jim?
one last question.
Yes, go ahead.
Because Dave interrupted, you never got a chance to answer, but my question was, we're pumping water in, out of the street, and it's running back in, maybe not over the seawall, but it's coming back in through these check valves that have been working. So I don't know how you defeat the problem. I don't know how the problem is ever addressed.
The idea is we're addressing this infiltration in the segment that goes from the closest inlet to the seawall with a cure place liner, this project. So that has.
So you're bringing in a third source of water. You're bringing in the rainwater, the infiltration from the ground, and seawater,
We're
right?
gonna eliminate the infiltration.
Right, okay.
So that's where your tide's coming up, and it's not going exactly through the valve, but it's getting into the pipe that the valve's connected to, so it's getting around it. So when we seal that will take care of the backflow around the valve.
But we're still gonna have a lot of water coming through the check valve, unless it's just been cleaned.
Yeah, that shouldn't be a problem.
For the most part, they work. Every once in a while, you're gonna get some mulch or something, a branch that
Okay.
prevents it from working perfectly.
So you're saying like the foot or two of water that's on A Street and Moral Line is purely infiltration?
Infiltration makes it rain, but like when you're talking about having a flow of water on a sunny day, that's all because it's getting around the valve.
Okay. Yeah, that'd be, so if you think that'll fix that, that'd be good, okay. I'm surprised that
That's
that's
gotta
what
be
it
fixed
is.
first and foremost, and it's part of this project.
Okay. I guess my question to you was, so this pump's really only gonna be able to handle the rain rates? And we could, and they're, like you say, that, like, Mr. Lloyd Roberts was saying, was it's, do we know the history of what's the rate of the rain? But that's maybe not the biggest thing, but I was still wondering, can we do it on top of just trying to stay ahead of the rate at which it's coming through the valve? And assuming, if your thing fixes it, if like fixing all the infiltration, if that solves the check valve and there's not gonna be any more high tide water coming from that, then I would feel comfortable if the rainwater is sufficient to just to use the pump only for the rainwater pileup. But I guess I'm still thinking there's still gonna be a decent amount coming from the tide itself. And could we stay ahead of that? Could we just run faster than the rate it's coming in through the check valves and the rain?
Well, I mean, I don't think we wanna fight the tide, so we want the valve.
But the check
I
valve.
think it could.
I'm just saying we're
fight
fighting
some-
the check valve
Yeah.
efficiency, is what I'm saying. Not the tide, obviously the tide is not gonna drain, so I can overrun the breaching the wall, but going through the check valve,
Getting around it and then filling the pipe.
yeah, can we try and stay ahead of that?
Yeah, I think that's critical, and that's gonna be part of this
So
project.
then the pump would need to be sized to be able to stay ahead of that? Not just the rain, but also ahead of,
I believe the pump is sized volume-wise for, especially for just the rainwater.
Yes, like it's sized for the rainwater, but this is something that we can get back to you once we talk about NWR to see like how the different configurations that we can do to maybe get ahead of the rainfall event.
the whatever infiltration, if we can solve the infiltration problem, do you think that's gonna fix the whole check valve performance? Then I'm comfortable. And then we can just deal with the rain again. Okay.
Kyle, I wanted to ask you, what, if we decided to move forward on this, what is the next step? And then, once I have your answer, I'd like to go back to Jody Shirley, because she has the most concerns about this project, and I'd like to hear what her opinion is.
Right, so I feel like our next step is we need to have a well thought out, understanding of what the cost is gonna be as far as installation, but also the maintenance, so we don't pull out in about 7 years, how much that's gonna cost us. It'll also be good to understand the capacity of the pump, and if you're calculating like 1 inch of rain in that basin, how much water accumulates and how long that pump's gotta run if it's solely rainwater runoff
Yeah,
from the street, and to get an idea of how much stress is being put on it.
right now what we have is average of what we were able to observe from like historical data from Delaware Beach. And yeah, like just as Kyle mentioned, like the next steps will also be to do utility locates and the geotech, because I think the geotech is going to be very important. We don't want to move forward with this and install the bulb, and then a few years later the soil cannot hold that well. So definitely that's what's going to be one of our critical aspects, and hopefully the utility locates show us that we don't have any conflict with existing like sanitary lines or like potable, and nothing will need to be revised, but that's what we're hoping. And the final cost estimate, as well as a good maintenance schedule for you guys with the corresponding cost, like breakdown of how much this is going to cost the city and who will be in charge of that. However, I will say that for the maintenance, after talking with Bill on NWI, he mentioned that the contractor that installs the ball, like the well, basically provides warranty for that well, and they should be in charge of the maintenance through the years also. So once we get a contractor specialized in that, we can also get a better estimate of the costs that they're projecting.
So if I'm hearing you correctly, we have gotten to a certain point where it's time to invest more into the project to find out if we can even do it. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Right now, like we consider all the surveys, all the rainfall data available, all the utility locates that were available for us, and the next step will be to move forward with the actual utility locates and then the geotech studies to make sure that the soil is well, or if we need to do, hopefully the soil is well, if not, if we need to do some engineering in the soil to make sure that it withstands the weight of this well.
Okay, and in this cost for the pumps, does this take into consideration, or is it included in this cost for moving forward, or is there more cost involved in doing research and engineering?
The additional cost that will be included is just the geotech. That is going to be about in between $2,500 to $3,000. Those were the cost estimates that we received. Beyond that, this will cover everything necessary for the project.
Okay.
Do we have additional survey costs during construction? I don't sure to see that out of the subject.
Well, right now, thankfully, thanks to the previous project, we were able to use that existing like survey. What's going to change slightly, and I know that at some point you guys are going to get as-bills for like the final project, so I think, yes. That's the reason why they're not included.
All right. Jody, concerns, questions?
I'm just trying to think of as-built geotech, two items that we didn't include in this one to take into consideration. What depth is the pump expected to sit at?
It is right now about 10 feet. Yeah. So from the top of like the ground elevation, to say this is ground,
So we don't really even know if we already have dry soil at 10 feet.
Yeah.
It may
You
not.
can always put a field clear.
That's why we want to get the geotech to see what we're facing, what do we need to do to
See if it's a viable
Yeah.
project, because
What
it may
would-
not be.
Just for that, what would be a problem with that? The whole well would float,
Hit the ground.
and then it would float like.
And it can also collapse.
Yeah, collapse, there's all kinds of.
Okay.
So I think, I mean, I know we can't prove anything, but that's going to be the next step, right, is the geotech, to see if it's even a viable project.
But is that the determining factor if we move forward or not, or does it come back in front of the council and then we have this debate again? I guess that's the question at hand right now. Is this something that the council would like to move forward with, and then we approve it in the next meeting to move forward, or is this something we want to put on the back burner and reconsider? Yes.
I think first of all, if somebody could answer the question, when was the last time, for the people that live down in that area, where we saw backflow from the intercoastal, where salt water was actually coming on the street? Was it recent?
Yeah.
Wasn't it?
Just before
That
the
big
rain, like a week.
storm we had in November.
Yeah.
Well, not coupled with a rainstorm. I mean, just on a sunny day where you actually saw backflow coming into the street.
They were pumping pools out during rehabilitation of the streets.
But it just stayed in the street at that time. When was the last, let me rephrase the question. When was the last time we actually saw water backflowing where it filled the street and reached the curb and you came into somebody's yard? Has it been a while?
That would have been.
I'd say-
No, that was November.
Yeah, like 3 months, 3-4 months ago.
Like
Okay.
you just said, there's problems in.
Right. So my point was going to be, I think the first step, we need to, and I know Kyle's working on that with the grid-in-place pipe and other things, and perhaps we can, in those problem areas, make sure that we increase the number of maintenance cleanings on the check valves in those particular areas. I don't know what the normal inspection is, but in those trouble areas, we do that more often to see if there's like a stick or whatever it may be that jammed it and is allowing that salt water to come back into the streets. But I think that's a big part of the equation. So if we feel very comfortable after the cured-in-place pipe and we updated the inspection program, so everybody's confident that, hey, it's extremely unlikely that we're going to have on a sunny day water backflowing into the streets because there's a problem with either infiltration or the backflow valves not, malfunctioning. Because then I think it's going to be a very small window when we actually have, that's what I'd like to hear more of, we actually have those scenarios where we have a big enough rain coupled with a high tide that lasts for an extensive period of time where water may come into a garage or whatever it might be. And that's where I get to the situation where I say, man, does it make sense to spend whatever the final tag is for those few times that occurs? That's just my concern.
To answer that question, I pulled up some climate charts.
Okay.
Okay, so we're in a low tide period, we're in a non-rainy season period. Let's go into May when the rainy season starts. We have over 10 days just in May. We're going to have a 2.8 to 3.5 inch foot tide. Okay, June's going to be a little bit higher. July, so you're going to have a third of the month. We have a scenario where you're going to have people possibly getting flooded.
If it rains during that high tide.
And if it rains during that high tide, then that will be the rainy season. We have to put up with it.
God,
I
That's why I think her chart said an awful lot, which was that we're expecting this to be a monthly event, more than one time a month. I mean, your chart basically said 1, 2, 3, 4 times a month. There was going to be a surge event of at least 100,000 gallons an hour from my calculations. So you were saying effectively that there's a lot of water coming in, and it's coming in on a regular basis, and I don't want to see anybody flood. That's just my
Kim, you live at Ground Zero. We have not heard much from you.
It's been not much of an opportunity to get in, but.
So get on in there.
One is that we had requested at one point a narrative plan, a proposal for this project that Mr. Flutie had then prepared. So it may be appropriate to update that, take a look at that.
Absolutely.
So that we have a narrative there. But I think we need to keep in mind that this is not just rain related. This does occur during perfectly sunny days. You might recall that there was a city event, a big expedition here at City Hall, and the morning that the folks were supposed to come in, the street completely flooded. I mean, 2 feet high, completely flooded, and we couldn't even get exhibitors in very well. That's not a normal suburban street for that to happen. We also have done an exhaustive study, I thought, about this, that I thought Mr. Flutie looked at different alternatives and different methods of trying to control this, and this is the sole solution.
Yeah. Right now, like with the way that the topography that you have right now, the conditions of the street, like this will be like the cheapest solution that can be done. Raising the houses is always an option. Redoing the entire road is always an option. And yes, it's possible, like there are other alternatives, but the cost for those alternatives will be significantly more than the pump right now.
And I was just looking through my own photos, and this is one from August 30th, 2023. This is not a normal street.
I can imagine.
Yeah, I'm sure you can.
I got
Many
some
of
of
them.
those too. Yeah,
And this
anyway, yeah.
happens with a fair level of frequency, so I think we do need to address it. I like the way that people are considering this perhaps a pilot, in that we may have other areas of the city that are not as severely affected, but if there is another control factor that we need to consider, this is a good way of dealing with it. This is the street that goes to our city park. This is the street that is the backdoor entrance to our community center. The sheriffs come through here all the time so that they can get to the facility here. I just think it's ridiculous if we don't do what we can to control the level of flooding on a street such as this.
I hate to nitpick, but when you said it was 2 feet of water in the street, so visually, what does that mean, 2 feet of water in the street? But you said like recently, or when people were coming in. So 2 feet of water, how far does that come over the curb and up to the yard?
What I'm talking about is watching vehicles try to pass through, and it's up over the hubcaps.
Where does that put it in the yard?
No, and she's talking about the subgrade,
Right.
the height of the subgrade, and then it tips down. So you're actually talking water in the yard sometimes anywhere between 10 feet in the yard up to the garage, 20 feet, depending on how your yard will slope.
And again, if a majority of that water is actually saltwater coming from the coastal, because of some of the things that I know Kyle and his group can take care of, then that could significantly decreasing those type of events. If the majority of that water is saltwater coming from the coastal,
I think the factor here is when they put these pipes in 75 years ago, 50 years ago, okay, they didn't have enough pitch, okay, to take the water out of high tide. And one of the things before I got on council, I argued with the previous city manager, where you want to raise my street level, put the new pipes in. Oh, we have to go through that guy's yard. I said, eminent domain, man, get the job done right. No, we didn't do it. The side wasn't even bedded or grown into the grass on the street. We had a storm right at Easter, okay, and it washed all the sod right out of everything. this way, okay? And it was just brand new pipes, useless. And I remember I just got on council at the time, I remember when one neighbor got on, we said, nice job you did here. I said, I didn't vote for that one. You know?
All right, so unless there's, yes, sure,
Just
sure.
one more question. I recall last spring, I believe it was, the pump company came to a meeting and they just installed these pumps in, I think it was downtown Palm Beach and a couple of other cities. And is there any way we can talk to them or have them send us historically
Yeah.
what's happened since they've installed those pumps?
Absolutely, we can
And
contact them.
how's it working in those towns? Provide us maybe a study of, certainly, since it was their pilot program, that
Yep.
they could provide us, they must be studying it,
Yeah.
and they can provide us that information. And that will answer a lot of the questions, and sorry, Dave, we might have to talk about this again, but at least it will support the decision.
That was
Yeah,
December
we can
24th.
definitely contact them. I think these type of solution, I think looking into, as you said, like looking into the future is kind of difficult, but a lot of the coastal cities are doing this, like Palm Beach, Miami. We actually have a project in the Panhandle that we're also looking into this, Jacksonville. So absolutely, we can reach out and see.
I want to say that we did have a presentation. I don't know if that was during your off time.
Yeah, she was
Sean.
I
Was
was still
you
in
here?
council,
Okay.
yeah, and I remembered that was kind of the last I remember about this whole project was they presented it, we gave the engineer the go-ahead to do some preliminary work,
Yep.
and then that was the last.
And I also recall from that discussion that they said that they need almost a year in
Yes.
advance to be able to build the pump.
Yes.
So we're talking a long time out.
Yeah, so if you guys decide to move forward with it, like once we sign like a contract with NWI, it takes between 35 to 40 weeks for them to send the pump.
It's like getting a permit in Largo.
Or Bel Air Beach.
And it's like,
This guy expedites.
yeah, and it's 35 to 40 weeks, like not accounting for like 2 weeks for them to push the paperwork in. So yeah, it takes this amount of time for this. So.
Here's a guy that worked in the streets, my question. Each one of these have a discharge pipe. When the check valves close, they close. Why aren't we maybe investing in a bigger dump well, maybe a larger pump, and tying in a couple of different streets? Because once that water backs up, it could flow into, you know what I'm saying? It could do a gravity flow into that massive well, I just want to call it, okay? Which maybe an 8-inch pump would suffice that, maybe a 12-inch pump would, because now you're talking 6,000 gallons per minute, okay? And you might offset 4 or 5 streets, you know?
I don't know, you have to ask the engineer that.
Could you repeat the question? I couldn't hear you very well this time.
Well, I'm saying, like, why can't we tie a number of streets into one massive well and put a bigger pump in there?
Supersize.
I think that that's a single point of failure, and that wasn't really the scope of the project, was that if it works on this one street, we would
Well,
have.
Yeah, I understand that this was supposed to be a pilot job, but if you're going to do a pilot, you're going to spend $600-some thousand, then you could spend maybe another $100,000 trenching a couple more streets. Seeing if it handles this massive amount of water, it might be worth it.
Yeah, I'm for whatever the engineer recommends, because I think that they probably know better than all of us, but as it stands right now, I'm okay with this project. I'd like to know what the general consensus is, as far as, first off, Kyle, was the idea to bring this in front of the council at the next meeting, or wait, or what?
No, the idea is to get, like at this point, we think that survey that was always part of the proposal of the original engineer. We're at the point where we think that it's feasible.
Okay, this is just a status update of the project.
Yeah, this is, we've decided on the location where they picked. It's a location that hopefully does not create too much of an eyesore right directly in front of someone's house, but it's an area that, you know, the material costs are low, because you can get your water flow into your well and then, you know, the floor's pumping out. The majority of the distance is with the HDPE pipe, which is a cheaper pipe. A little bit more open space if we're talking about doing maintenance and the pump out periodically, it's a good spot. So, yeah, now it's kind of figuring out if the soil is ready.
Okay, all right. So at this time, we don't really have anything that we're considering voting on. We're just getting a status update. And next is the study to make sure that the well can actually, the ground can support the well, correct?
Yes, and
And maybe the maintenance and.
Yes,
We'll follow up on
yeah,
that.
I'll follow up and down on
Annual
saying.
maintenance, ongoing maintenance costs.
You have many questions, or you've heard many concerns, and whenever we do the next presentation, please bring those answers.
Absolutely.
Try to do everything you can to satisfy everyone's questions and requests. And I greatly appreciate you coming tonight and giving us an update.
One thing, can we put some urgency behind the soil test? Because I know I've been waiting 8 weeks for my soil test, and this project has had just a glacier pace. So if we could, that is a critical point of our ability to move forward, so if we could.
Yeah, we already contacted actually a geotech company, so it will be just a matter of agreeing to the contract and then trying to get them out. The time frame usually is that what's going to happen is that they're going to do utility locates that shouldn't take that long, and then they'll come, they'll drill, and it will take about 4 weeks in total for them to just take the sample, process it through their lab, and then give us a report of what they have found. But that has been started, like we already contacted them.
Okay. Last call for questions for Jim and I, and then I'm going to let you guys go. Anyone? All right. Thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you so much for
Bringing
your
the
time.
updates and all the handouts. I'm sure we'll be pouring through these, and we'll have a barrage of questions for you next. Yes, Renee.
I would just like to ask going forward if you could make sure you're addressing your microphone. You're very difficult to hear on some places. This side is having some difficulty. Kyle, I don't know if yours is even on.
Always. Okay, thank you so much. All right, next up, we are on to item number 2, which is discuss budget amendment to increase salaries. I requested this, but I think that there were, there were other people. Councilmember Bankert was one that was pushing for this, and basically I contacted Kyle and said, all right, convince us, prove that we can afford this and that that we can move forward with this to get you and Renee, bring you up to speed with the rest of the surrounding areas. The one thing that was not in my request was to single out a single employee that reports to you. And I would prefer that if you wanted to amend your budget, you just ask for an amended budget and why you want it, and then we would just approve it. But as far as picking any of your employees and saying, I want to single this employee out, I would prefer not to do that because they don't report to us, they report to you. Does everybody kind of feel the same way?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay, all right. So take it away, Mr. Riefler.
Okay, so what we did here is just put out the numbers for each salary/wage account in the budget. There's 3 separate budgets here. You have the city manager budget, the city clerk, and the public works. Each one of these salaries were adjusted for the upcoming or this budget year for a 5% merit increase. We showed the original budgeted number of the 5%, and then the additional 5% would be up to a 10% merit increase. I had a conversation with Councilmember Anders Wellings earlier today, and we were just kind of talking about how throughout a budget year, at different times, you know, you have some things built into the budget, like repair costs for facilities and things like that. That sometimes you don't have, you know, significant costs in that budget here, and that's one area that I felt that sometimes we have some extra money in the budget. Given that we had a storm this year, and we have a lot of replacement costs that weren't necessarily built into that budget, there are gonna be, if you're paying attention to our financials, we're probably a little ahead of where we usually are, it's just because we have a little extra replacement cost. You know, we have surplus money in our general funds, so there is money available. At this time, though, I don't have a selling point as far as, okay, we could take money from here and that's what we're gonna say now. Okay, so I just wanted to kind of bring it up.
And just to clarify, this would actually put 3 different spots into a 10% merit increase. But this is not setting a standard. This is actually just bringing the 3 of you up to where you should have been all along. And then going forward, you wouldn't expect the same increase, such a dramatic increase. You would be back down towards the normal increases, but at least you would be in line with competing cities. Is that correct?
Yes, for the past 5 years, we've been, well, maybe 4, we used to be at 3% when we were at rougher times, but we've been budgeting 5%, so that's our typical.
All right.
But you're saying the 10% increase in total is enough to get you into the, what you said, what is,
So one-time.
what's the norm? It's a one-time,
10%.
like a promotion, almost like a one-time promotion to get you into the competitive rates in the area.
Right.
And that does get you there? Or get the people we're considering?
Well, in the last 3 years, we've kind of seen some cost of living prices going up and wages increasing, so, you know, between the city manager, budget, city clerk, and then the one staff member of public works, that really does take care of the full spectrum of the employees of the city. So we have.
So this one-time market adjustment gets you corrected, and then it's just back to the 5%.
I think that's it. It's a kind of a pay structure correction.
Right, yeah.
For, I wouldn't say being neglected, but I would say that we don't want to lose our very talented staff. Council comments, Mr. Baker.
I didn't mean to step on your toes, your whole foot, but I mean, I put in Aaron, because I know he works under you, I know you're using discretion, but I don't, like you said, he does a marvelous job, in my opinion, a lot of the residents' opinion. He was there, he's saving people with you. I don't give enough of our staff credit, okay? Brady and all the guys that work out in the field, your girls in the office and everything like that, but I don't want to lose Aaron. Because I think a lot of people are looking at him, you know, other cities and that, and I think he needs to be adjusted. That's the only reason I put him in there. And I don't think you want to lose him either, yeah.
No, I tend to agree with him being considered for a pay raise, because I do think that we have looked at every other staff member. And I'm fine with, you know, being, you know, his manager.
Yeah. But I just wanted to make sure the money would be properly allocated, we have enough for him to.
So on, what I'm really reading here is you're talking about a $14,500 adjustment to the current budget, which would basically make everybody whole, and then basically reset the cycle for future activity. So what I'm understanding procedurally, we're saying from a council perspective, we would look at the city manager and the city clerk, but we would also allocate additional funds for those folks to make their adjustments as they need to.
What I'm seeing is
Or not do it at all.
the city manager has come to us with a budget amendment, and it's ultimately, it's just up to us to approve that amendment at the next council meeting.
I would support.
I support.
Really?
Support, I just would ask that you include benefits and so forth on here, because it's just a 5% base pay. Can we see what the overall cost really is?
How that's
I support it.
Okay. Mr. Baker?
We need a budget amendment, when our charter gives us an 8.3 of GDP, your city manager, the appropriation, the moving money around, like from the general fund? Is there enough money in the general fund to do $14,000?
Well, for each one of these budgets, we have to move money specifically into that budget. So we want
I'm just saying, but like, our chart gives you the right to move that around without moving the budget.
But in each department, there's discretion, but we have to have a budget amendment to move it from like public works.
Even if he had that authority, I think it's cleaner if the council approves it.
And he certainly doesn't want to move money around, give himself a raise, right? So I'm just saying.
He can't give himself a raise without us agreeing with him, so I'm just saying he has the right to move that money around.
Vice Mayor Roberts.
Yes, sir. I think we're very fortunate in that we have a relatively small staff. I feel like that gives us a lot more flexibility with regards to setting salaries. If you're in a little bit larger city that has 30 staff members and you're talking about an X% increase, that turns into real dollars. I think this is good, the percentage thing, but I don't think we really need to focus on a certain percentage. What would make me feel better if we come up with a dollar value for the people that we have, because I know Kyle has expressed to me more than a few occasions that he's very happy with the team that he has on board. That's invaluable. That's invaluable. We do not want that the card to be turned over in any way. So if we can create a scenario with salaries, and we've all, grown up through our work lives, where back in my day, I got the Sunday paper out and looked at the advertisements for positions. We don't do that anymore, of course. But it became a time when, I can go back and won't bore you with the details, but I got a position with a particular company that I said, I'm done. I'm not looking for jobs anymore. I'm happy to be here in this position at this rate. So that's what I'm really looking to you, Kyle, for is, what do you think is required to basically lock in the staff that you have? Now, nothing's for certain. People, oftentimes, the best way to get more money is to get a different job with a different company. But that's really what I'm looking for, to where you're comfortable that your staff are comfortable with the salaries they're getting, and they're not looking for jobs anywhere else. They may be approached by some number, by some other government agency that just knocks them off their feet. Nothing we can do about that sometimes, because it's a whole different job they're being offered. But for the most part, whatever that number is, because we can even increase some of these salaries by percentage, and they still move on. So whatever number you're comfortable with for your staff, obviously you're handling that. And you can convey to us on a one-to-one basis if you're comfortable with that number, because we don't know it's you or Renee.
All right, so I think the general consensus is put it in the agenda in our next meeting, and I think unanimously we will pass this through.
I'll lay it out with all of that.
Okay, great. And I will just congratulate you, and again, we do appreciate the hard work on the hours that you put in. This is one of the best staffs and the best councils we've ever had, and I'm proud of all of us. So doing a great job, and now we'll move on to number 3. This was placed on the agenda by Councilmember Baker. Discuss amending the city's look-back period. Mr. Baker, take it away.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Last year, we moved our look-back period from 5 years to 1 year. And I didn't even understand the look-back period that much until a couple of residents got hit with Italian. And a couple of them got knocked over the 50% rule and everything like that. And I sat down with Kyle and we went over all this. The council was reluctant to put the look-back period to 0. So we settled on 1 year, but now we faced 2 major storms this past year in 2024, and discussed when I was over in the permitting department, and I'm not getting, I trust this man's technology on the look-back period. What the county's telling me is the look-back period restarts if you have 1 year and every permit approved. And I don't think that's true, and you're telling me it starts after the permit's approved. So what I'm saying is, if the permit's approved and the permit's signed off in, let's say, February 2025, when does the look-back period?
So it goes by the issue date.
Issue date, so,
Yes.
so the issue date was December 1st. So we go back to December 1st, it wouldn't go back to the last event, right?
Right.
Okay, and they're telling me that it looks like it goes, when the permit is signed off, it restarts.
When it's complete, you need
Yeah,
to
when
say
they,
sign off.
when they sign the, when they sit, close, I'm sorry, close the permit out.
If you had no look back period, that would be the case.
Yes,
As
okay.
soon as that permit's closed, you could open another permit.
Okay, so right now, we have numerous residents that still not in their homes. If we get hit with another storm between now and, I don't know when these permits will all be issued, we're talking probably at least another year. We'll have to go through another storm period. And a lot of these people are gonna be in my opinion, over 50%. So, are we gonna put our residents at risk by not moving it to zero?
I have a question for you, Mr. Baker. What is your current perception of FEMA? How do you feel about FEMA?
The same way as Donald Trump, they suck. Okay, I mean, I'm hoping that I've been talking with FEMA. Some of the people are all good people. In fact, Tia Criswell, she gave her resignation. I don't know if it was a resignation letter or a goodbye letter, December 17th, so she's out of there. I don't know who he's going to put in there. I don't know if FEMA's even going to be in existence this time. It could be a whole different agency. The problem is, in 68, it was created in 72, the NFIP came in with the 50% rule, and that's what the residents here are taxed with. And nobody, in my opinion, from FEMA would give me definitions of simple 50% rule criteria. And that's labor rate, material rate, contractor's rate. It's all up in the air. I asked for some clear-cut definitions of all this stuff. 6 months ago, I still haven't got it. Finally, Scott gave me a girl, she's working with me. I don't know if that's going to help. I'm going to go to Ashley Moody Morris, and she's going to be senator. But in the meantime, our residents are going to be faced for another 12 months to 14 months with a 1-year limit.
Okay, and I'm assuming that you've done a lot of research to prove to me that there's no way possible that our city would get dinged by going to a zero look-back period.
Good question. We're supposed to be getting discounts now. Show me the discounts, because the NFIP people couldn't show them to me, FEMA couldn't show them to me. This is going back over a year ago. There's 14, probably 18 states right now that are in court for that question that you just raised.
And this was the discount that we couldn't prove out, and so cautiously, we moved it from 5 years to 1 year, because we were afraid that if we went to no look-back period, somehow or another, we may be disqualified as a city from being eligible for the flood insurance.
Not eligible? I don't think that. What I'm saying is, are we getting the discount?
We are supposed to be getting the discount. Actually, I always have trouble because it's a range.
Yeah.
And there's, maximum and minimums, and it's all affected, so you don't necessarily, depending on where you are on that range, get that whole percentage of the discount. It's complicated and frustrating to understand.
And I sat down with Scott's people, I sat down with FEMA's people at first, okay, and said, took a bunch of our residents' insurance, and I said, show me where the discounts are. We got into the manual, up to 750 pages or whatever, they couldn't prove where the discounts were, they couldn't show where the discounts were. FEMA was very, very nice talking to me, and then talking to Scott, and then when I think it was Louisiana was the first one to file the suit, they said, we're not talking anymore. judge, I think, ruled in August of last year that this is going to go forward, but he's not going to put an injunction on NFIP freezing. Because right now, I believe the max rate a homeowner can get is 15% on their flood insurance.
Max discount?
No, max increase.
Per year.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
17 or 18.
yeah, something like that. Yeah, that's on the jury.
Just a question, and I completely support what you're saying, but Kyle, how many homeowners do we have that are dealing with this, that have, like, I'll just say, for instance, my neighbor put a brand new kitchen in his house, which I'm sure there's a permit for. The entire kitchen was sitting on the curb after the storm. So all I can think is that there's no way he can replace that kitchen because he's used up all his credits, assuming he wouldn't have a permit. He may not have. I mean, I don't know that I would have if I was dealing with this struggle. But how many residents do you know of or have maxed out their 50% and need that look back taken away so that they can get their work done?
In the current situation we're in, there's a lot of residents that are staying under the property appraiser 50%, not to exceed the limit. They're staying comfortably underneath it. There's some that have gotten a little closer, and I just warned them, be prepared in case something unexpected happens. When you think about the year look back, though, a lot of these repair permits, I really feel some of them might get done pretty quickly, but some of these, they're dragging out, and I don't know if the work is even going to be done before that year from the issue date. When we first talked about having no look back periods, thinking with a year, I kind of felt like the year was roughly about the same, just based on the duration most of these permits are open for. I can verify that we wouldn't lose any significant points in our CRS program. I highly doubt that we would, just because our 5-year only got us 30 points.
The other thing that he brought up, not to bring up the bus, but he said there's legislation, maybe in the state, having one look-back period for the whole entire state.
I don't know if that's a question to me. I know you're making eye contact with me. I know that our legislators are presently in special session. The legislative session is scheduled to begin in March. There's been much talk of preemptions concerning permitting and other things, but none of those have been adopted yet. So we have to operate in the existing landscape, and to my knowledge, there's no uniform statutory mandate relating to look-back periods in the state of Florida for the purpose of administering FEMA's rules, insurance, et cetera. And so it's entirely possible that when they come as a result of Ian, Helene, Milton, and otherwise, but at present, that doesn't exist.
Okay.
And we have our family has a home in Treasure Island, and they were one of the examples that we used whenever we were having this conversation, was that they were one of the communities that had no look-back period. And so you could finish a project, it would be reappraised basically, and then you'd start another project right behind it, and you would run projects concurrently. And theoretically, you could completely change your entire home by doing it this way. But then we just found out recently that for some reason they are not allowing that with flooded homes. So they are requiring a 1-year look back.
Well, I feel bad for those people in Treasure Island because they got big worse around here. And FEMA just went down there, I think a week or two ago, and started making their threats. And they're trying to pull the NFIP or put them under probation.
And that's what I don't want to happen to us.
But that was because of permits being issued or whatever like that. But I think all of that's going to go to the wayside quite quickly.
Well, my recommendation would be rather than immediately pulling the 1-year look back and making it 0, I think I'd rather us take a wait-and-see attitude because we have a new administration. We've got people that are investigating relocating FEMA, they're looking into the Army Corps, they're looking into a lot of things that affect our community directly. And I think the last thing that I would vote for would be to make a drastic change to where we had basically, you could just do concurrent projects over and over until we knew how this was going to shape down. That's the way that I would vote.
Well, I'll look into more about the CRS for the city going this year. And Kyle, you said you can also have an avenue.
On the point system. I've heard of places in Hillsborough County with a limited look-back period, and people doing permit after permit after permit, and then getting kind of dating for allowing people what they call phasing, which is just doing one permit after the other and allowing everything over time. But again, a lot of the regulations, FEMA has their general rule, but then a lot of it, when it comes down to every single scenario, is very subjective to the community. And a lot of times you can go to FEMA or the state and they'll give you guidance given the situation, but it's not always a cut and dry, consensus offer when you get into the city. And I think that's part of the frustration too.
And they never want to put anything in writing. When they were here for that meeting, they said one sentence the whole meeting. And that was, we could believe that's correct. I understand what you're saying, Mr. Mayor, but there's a time issue here. Hopefully this gets expedited quickly. They have to be readdressed.
If it's any consolation, I personally wrote the president a letter and said, please come see us. Of course, he's never going to respond, but I did do it.
Well, and it sounds like, as a community, we're kind of handling it, but this hasn't yet been a huge issue for any of our residents.
It's the one-offs.
Yeah.
There's always going to be that one unfortunate household and one unfortunate couple of homes in a neighborhood somewhere, but for the most part, I think overall, I'm very pleased with the outcome of what's been happening in our city. That's not every single home is not substantially damaged, but I'd say the overall percentage of good outcomes is actually, I think we're doing way better than just about the entire Gulf Coast.
Well, just to make a note, 2 days after Helene, FEMA showed up, and this came right from one of the top inspectors, Karen, and said, we're going to go out, this whole county should be 100% damaged to the islands. And the inspector said, why? He said, because people have taken water anywhere from a couple inches to a couple feet. He says, true. Well, that's their whole home. He says, but all the homes are concrete. What's that got to do? And the inspector said, well, should we damage it, or should we tear all our seawalls down? Why? Well, they're concrete. And FEMA says, well, maybe we have to rebuild. So they just don't know what the hell they're doing.
Well, I did notice that while they were here, there were many people that had very little training and had no knowledge whatsoever of FEMA policies and regulations. So if you're okay with, let's kind of table this for a little while.
Yeah, we can always put an emergency, something. Yeah. Okay.
Everybody good with that?
Sir.
Okay, cool. All right, next, we are up to item number 4, discuss Bel Air Beach 75th anniversary. I actually brought this to City Manager Riefler's attention, but his name's on it, so I'm going to let him run with it, and then I'll show you something. Tell you a little story. Mr. Riefler.
Thank you, Mayor. So yes, it was the mayor's idea to celebrate and commemorate the 75th anniversary of Bel Air Beach. And this happens, once in a lifetime. So 75 is a big number. So speaking to Aaron, he's got some art skills in designing because he used to run a sign shop, t-shirt shop, and he put together some mock-ups of what a possible 75th anniversary banner could look like. Give us a couple options, but we're, if you think any other element added to the design would improve it, we're on board. He can do that very quickly.
That one's cool.
That one is.
I think that one is timeless. This one just becomes too dated too quickly.
This is just two. I love it.
I think it's very classic.
I'll tell you exactly how this happened because I had no idea we were that old, right? So I'm on Amazon one day and I saw another community's t-shirt for sale. I'm like, Miller Beach t-shirt. And it came up with this, right? And I wore it for about a month, off and on, walking around town, even during the hurricane and all that.
What's it
And
say?
then one day I realized in the mirror, it said established 1950. Holy crap, we're 75 years old. That's very cool. So that's whenever I reached out to Kyle and said, we need to do something. It's something that we can take pride in our city and maybe put some banners up or whatever. I don't like this one at all, but this one right here rocks. And yeah, if Aaron did that, well, he's a keeper, man.
My only comment would be, can we make them oversized? Because the ones that we've had on the poles in the past have just been so small that they're really hard to see from a car. So we
I
can
think
go
they're
oversized.
22 by 36. So so I believe the height is 36.
And bigger.
You want a larger.
I mean, if you go look at the Indian Rocks banners, they're pretty, they're very visual, so I'd get a size.
You're saying your ones now are 22 by 36?
Yes.
Too small.
They don't
We
look
were
that big.
looking at 24 by 36, but I think we need at least 40 feet, right? 40 inches.
It's my opinion.
Will they have air holes in them?
Feet off that a little bit, is that?
That's a good question. We were looking to do the vinyl,
Yeah,
not fabric,
they could
obviously, is there a one-off?
Like the wall.
Yes.
But
He's got just.
we'll want to use them in our next 75th.
Yeah. Well, maybe collector's item or something.
That's why I'm told, that's great.
I wanted to, show you the designs, but also just kind of throw out there that maybe we could do some kind of event or.
The one at Indian Rocks Beach, whenever you're crossing a bridge and you're coming right in, I'd love to have one going across Causeway, if that's possible.
One of the big banners over the.
Yeah, just something,
The big arch,
you know,
big aggressive arch at the entrance.
well, they have something,
Maybe
it's
arch.
not the arch, but they have a sign, something about,
Other park
Yeah,
area.
they do a nice job on their signage.
yeah.
Can we do something with Bel Air Shores to allow us to put right
You know what? It's always about those guys. Anyway, yeah, I like this.
I will add, just as you talk about putting things over the causeway and bridge, sometimes you get some FDOT concerns about what you can and can't put over those roadways.
We can certainly ask the county, right?
We've got to police somewhere.
Wire run across already.
Yeah.
So, do we have a cost?
So, we need the price amount. I was thinking we need at least 40 to 45, and
Dollars, cents?
so of actual banners.
Oh, okay.
So of the poles. When we were looking at them, he thought that the price he was looking at, which was closer to, I think it was almost what a fabric one would cost, which was I want to say $30-something. That was the actual, like he could get a lower price, from, I guess, whatever retail.
Do you think the vinyl would survive the entire year?
I'm concerned they don't have any body. What cuts in?
Maybe I would budget $100 per, just.
Per?
Yeah. You gotta have you gotta have something to hang them from,
Because the bigger they are, you're gonna have more wind resistance.
And if they're taller, whatever space.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, we're gonna
that those little slips.
design for wind resistance.
Okay.
We have the hangers to support them, or?
Well, we have, they're fiberglass rods, and I think they're about maybe 26 inches, and the, 2 pole. So we'd have to just spread them out a little bit with the banding for a little bit. And then I will, reach out to the county about the banner over, do we have I feel like we need to give them an expectation, like a deadline.
Do we have a specific date that our birthday is?
No, I could not find an exact date. I just know it was, we were formed in 1950. But I looked everywhere and could not find the exact date.
I have it. I'll try and pull it up while we deliberate other matters. I have it from the special acts of the
Get
legislature.
the ribbon cutting, right?
It's gotta be recorded somewhere.
I read somewhere it was May 25th. That was my birthday, so.
Oh, man, you went
We're in
there.
celebration at City Hall for your,
That's right.
but you're not 75.
Close.
Anyway,
Maybe it may, by May,
okay,
I think that's fair. I just feel like sometimes when we ask, it just gets dragged out.
yeah. Well, does everybody have a problem with me reaching out to Parks and Rec and seeing if maybe we can do something? Picnic and,
I know, I think that some neighboring cities have a big celebration too, so they're doing events.
okay,
Yeah.
okay, cool.
Step it out.
And we have a representative from the Bel Air Beach Community Foundation. I'm sure that she'd be more than happy to pass this along for T-shirts or whatever, you know? So, very cool. All right, enough about that. We're on to general business. Any general business, anything, yes, Mr. Harper?
I have a question to the city manager and city attorney related to planning and zoning as far as the committees are concerned. There were notes put out about a preliminary ordinance change that was coming through or potentially coming through. Is that something we're allowed to discuss here at the workshop, or is that something that's only on a vote during a regular meeting?
So I want to make sure I understand your question. As I understand your question, the Planning and Zoning Board met, and your question is, can we discuss the business of the Planning and Zoning Board if they talked about something that may come before you? Is that a fair statement? So yes, you're in a publicly noticed meeting, and this is the only place you folks can talk. For your benefit as a newer member in terms of the process, Planning and Zoning has been looking at the various ordinances. We've talked about your land development code revision. Those are starting to move through the pipeline now, again, delayed slightly by the wonderful fall that we had here. So those are moving forward. You'll have an opportunity to discuss those when they come on first and second reading. But if there's something you wish to discuss in the here and now, you're also free to do that. Nothing impedes you from doing that. My suggestion would be, if it's a very substantive conversation, as opposed to like, hey, I heard this and just wanted you guys to know. If you want to deliberate, you may wish to ask your peers if they would be open to having that placed on a future agenda, noting you guys meet next Monday. So it's really up to you as to, using your discretion based on what it is you wish to bring, because right now I'm speaking in a series of hypotheticals.
Yeah, the cat's out of the bag. What is it?
So one of the ordinance changes was community work hours, and the change that was proposed was 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. And I talked to several of my contractors, and they've said that that hour of 7 a.m. to 8 a.m. is probably one of the most critical times in the day due to heat. So I would like to propose that the 8 a.m. be revised back to 7 a.m.
So that's a substantive line edit within a broader framework, and so I think for the council's benefit, that's the kind of thing that would be better to talk about once it's presented to you on first reading. Because again, they're advisory, so we're also looking at how it will be presented versus what they recommended, and, and so, again, wonderful to stay abreast of things. I'm not suggesting you shouldn't, but as far as the process, they're making recommendations that are going to come before you anyways, and so better to have a discussion like that about a single edit in a larger ordinance when the whole ordinance is there to contextualize.
Yeah, and I mean, this is a work session, so it's something that it's called to your attention. You can, we can find out real quick what everyone thinks about that, just so you know whether it's even worth making a motion to amend it. So everyone's thoughts on that, keeping it at 7 or moving it to 8.
I think we should do it at 7 too. I was in the meeting when they were talking
Yeah,
about
in
it,
the
right?
meeting, the recommendation from the planning and zoning board was that for mowing, for landscapers, that we allow 7 a.m. for the purpose of landscaping and like even if an owner wants to mow.
And see that, and now that brings it to light. So can you say except for landscape
That was-
and lawn companies?
Yeah. except-
And that way you have the best of both worlds because they're right. You know, a lot of the people come in, they get all their equipment set up, and then they start banging it out. Well, maybe, maybe you make you allow some people for 7, but the noisemakers 8.
Yeah, like standard construction. Especially the power drive.
Yeah, the pile driving was the one that was not desirable to be at 7. That's what
Yeah, it's the leaf blowers that just
Gray
drive
area.
me crazy.
And
Those
I don't
leaf
mind it
blowers,
at 7
man.
a.m., but at 6 p.m., it drives me nuts.
Oh,
You
yeah,
know, so
yeah,
when
I'm
I'm
the
just
same
coming home
way.
from work.
On Saturdays especially, I was talking to Wendy last Saturday, and I said, are they just purposely trying to torture me? It seemed like it was taking them an hour to blow the grass off the lawn.
Do we want to, done on that, or?
Yeah.
Quick comment, I would, initially, my thought would be to not try to separate different trades. I think that's gonna cause issues at some point, because there's gonna be something we didn't think of, and somebody's gonna be out there with a used drill bit or something tearing up their driveway. So I would recommend one or the other. I'm fine with 7. But I think if you try to split it up, that's gonna cause phone calls at some point.
I'm fine with 7, especially in the summertime. It's just too hot. That's a whole hour you lose. You know, so
It's going to increase the cost to the citizens.
what's that?
That would be an increase in cost to the citizens if they, have to have different rules here.
Yeah,
And the contractors, well, I lose an hour, so it's going to cost me.
Makes sense.
When I was 15 years old, I could sleep later. Now it doesn't matter, I wake up at 6. That's it.
You're up at 4.
You, Bob, 6 o'clock. All right, Mr. Baker, you had something?
A couple residents brought to me, I think, one brought to you, Kyle, about trying to establish boat and trailer parking agreement. He said if you look at the south and north end, there's like 4 or 5 spots on each side. You could put like a 35-foot, 40-foot boat trailer together, park it there. I just did a quick survey for spelling a boat, and it could go anywhere from 60 to like $175 a month. You could probably bring in around $6,000 to $10,000 in revenue. I don't think it would take any space up in that marine parking. We've got a ton of equipment down there now for like the underground wiring and that. But it's not something that the council would consider. And it would be just for the residents of Bel Air Beach that are trying to get, trying to get a slip. They still can't get, they're on the list, but they can't get a slip.
Responsibility. So we would require increased police presence.
Well, I brought all that up. I said, you would be parking it there, and we're not responsible. He says, yeah, we have to sign waivers and all like that, because we're not going to pay for what you just said. He says, I don't believe the police patrol the slips. Do they?
No, not the slips, but they pull in the parking lot often. Yeah. Jody, what's your thoughts on that?
I know, we had talked about that, trying to use it for outside storage for boat trailers and boats, and it just went dead, like, the people in the marina didn't like the idea, residents didn't like the idea, we talked about it.
Yeah, and I think one of the problems is if you go down and you look at the, across the way here at the regular county boat ramps, there's it takes a lot of space to get a boat on a trailer with a vehicle pulling it to even get it to line up properly. And if you think about it, it's not a whole lot of room over there whenever you're looking at a trailer. I'm not against it, but I don't know if it's really practical because whenever you compare it to where everyone else is parking and moving things around, it's not a whole lot of room. But I'm all for more revenue.
Well, this would be a limited amount of space, of course. would have adequate parking, enough to turn it around.
I think if we did that, I would like to see that parking lot finally paved. That's what I'd like.
That can't be done, that can't be done.
What's that?
That cannot be done.
We cannot do that because of the slip mud.
Because of the what?
Slip mud restrictions. They
Oh,
can't
okay.
make an
All
extension
right.
on, so.
I got you.
Yeah,
Southwest Florida Water Management District.
I'm kind of one way or the other.
I told him I'd bring it up.
Yeah, well, if whatever this council would like to do, I will agree with it one way or the other.
I think the first question with that would be the undergrounding project, because that's where they've been staging up till now, and you said that restarts relatively soon.
yeah, so that would have to open up. I was gonna bring it to the planning and zoning board first.
All right.
and all that. But my intention was to have some stipulations, like they would need to be in line for a slip. And then, there'd be a set amount of spots that residents who go on Trevor Street use while they're in line for those.
But only after all your utility projects are done, because that's been on the table for so long, $20.
The only other thing, Dave, is resident brought up about excessive weeds, neighborhoods, not cutting them on, and debris from the storm still. Now, FEMA's we're not doing any more cleanup citywide. So I went up and down the streets. A lot of people still are.
There's sandbags still on people's front doors and
And I
garages.
said, it was brought up, I won't mention the name, but it was brought up at the council meeting, trying to have some compassion here, getting people back into their homes and their focus. I don't know if a lot of people said after September 26th, cancel our lawn service, for time being or whatever, now we're going to be going into the growing season very soon. And some of the houses are
Yeah,
weeds like this,
Yeah.
okay, where they could be whacked out.
yeah.
I think it was my understanding that we were about done with turning a blind eye to code
Well,
enforcement.
I said to him, look, and I agree with 100% what you said, you gotta have some compassion here. But do we need to put something out about that, or, you know what I'm saying?
Probably not a bad idea.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Just say, look, effective this day,
Yeah.
now you have to adhere to our code.
I mean, some of these weeds are,
Yeah.
I was gonna start with the sandbag and garbage.
Piles. There's still some,
Yeah.
where some people have done demo and they're, the debris that was left behind the trash
Yeah.
area has been raked into a pile and that pile's sat there for months,
because Waste Pro now has changed their yard rubbish pickup, it's just Thursday. Used to be like money and.
Just put it in a trash can. As
Well-
as the property owner, I'm just saying, it's like they should take it and put it in the trash.
Jody, I agree with you,
Yeah.
because some of these houses, you wouldn't fill up a 40-gallon trash can with the stuff that's left in the
Little
yard.
bit of stuff.
I mean, it's really
Right.
hand and rake.
It just said it changed the trash pickup.
I missed that.
I missed that.
No, because I got a call from 2 residents saying, hey, Monday,
Yeah, they didn't come on Monday, but they did North County on Monday.
well, no, and I called and I said, we missed a couple of residents, debris. And he says, we don't pick up yard debris till Thursday. I said, when did that change? And he said, over a year ago.
Just yard debris, okay.
Yard debris, yeah.
Okay.
All right, so at least we know where we're headed.
Yeah.
And any other general business before I call for a motion to adjourn?
I did have one thing that I talked to Kyle about, and it may not be appropriate, but just so everyone knows and is aware of it, I didn't know this was an issue. That the condos are going to be 50% rule, the way they're treating the condos. Is to giving it back to the association, saying, this is the value of your condo. Now, you tell us how much gets applied to each condo. The condos can't get permits to do any repairs. And of course, the units on the first floor might need more repair than the ones or whatever, I guess we don't have 4 stories, but 3 stories. But the point is that it's a mess. And there's a big problem going on with the condos that I wasn't aware of until last week. So I didn't know if anyone else was.
What you're saying is that there's a perfectly good standing structure, but they're not issuing permits for the bottom story because they think it's above 50%, but you can't wreck the bottom story and leave the good
Right.
ones standing.
Right.
It doesn't work that way.
That didn't work, right?
They know, when we had this conversation on meeting, they know that any building, condominium building that's multiple stories is not substantially damaged. They know that, and that's what they agreed, like, just as the county, floodplain administration, and the contractors, that they know that none of these multi-story buildings are gonna be substantially damaged, but they still want us to have each association fill out a form per building, determining the value of the whole building, how much they're gonna retain for the common areas, and then how much they wanna allocate to each unit. So it's a lot of work to just get these permits.
You know, in a three-story condo, the bottom story is, let's just say it's completely devastated. Everything is a complete loss in the bottom story. You got two other stories, I call that 33%. So what's the problem?
Well, and then they're saying, well, if there's common areas like whatever, sidewalks, whatever else is enclosed in that space,
Yeah.
that the condos are responsible for. They have to put, or condo associations are responsible for, they have to put a value on that too. So maybe it's $100,000 they've given to this building. The association might take 25,000 of it for their common area, leaving, the rest of the condos, 3/4 of it. So it's just a really flawed system and no one can get permits.
Well, if you want to torture yourself, spend a couple of days over at the county, and then that notice of commencement letter for each permit, and they are issuing some, because I was over there one time, and the girl had to fill out 80 separate commencement letters for one condo association, 80 units, and they charge the contractor $13 per commencement letter, rather than just blanketing one permit, one commencement letter. And it's all red tape, and just bogs down the system.
Okay.
They're the nicest people in the world over there, if you want to meet them, but I mean, I feel sorry for them.
Yeah, they definitely were not prepared for this. I guess the question is, Kyle, what can be done?
I'm working through it. I got my numbers finally, buildings on each property. Some of them are low and accurate. I'm trying to work out which units are in each building, property by property, and just get very little more. But I'm just trying to get the information laid out so that when I deal with the home or the condo association, I can, give them all the pieces and they can make the decision.
Obviously, this is taking up a lot of your time. Is this something that you could create a packet that you hand back over to the association and that they do a lot of the legwork for you?
So there is a form, but without, I've been trying to make it as easy as possible for them to just kind of understand what needs to be done.
I mean, the fortunate thing is we have one condo project that is owned by one person. So Kyle's been working closely with him to work through the details of how to make this work. And so that's helpful. He doesn't have to.
At least it gives them a roadmap.
Yes, exactly. But just be aware, you've got residents out there with problems because they can't even apply for a permit.
Are they living there?
Yeah.
Well, at least they're not homeless for now.
So every unit that has a repair job done to it is going to need that building's letter. So say you've got 20 units of the building, all those, like 5 of those units that need permits are going to have that same exact letter for that building as part of their permit package. They came up with this, it's frustrating only because in a normal time, we would never do this, and they're coming up with it from the storm, but we know they're not substantially damaged, so we're really doing a lot of work for this round of permits. That
Right.
hopefully, this is not something
Well, we have all seen that the county is not going to be any part of FEMA demise. They're going to put up every block they can to make sure that you guys are 100% right, and that they feel they get a warm fuzzy about what it is you're turning into them, Mr. Vice Mayor Roberts.
Yes, sir. Just a real quick positive story. So, excuse me, back when the construction was going on, resurfacing our roads, Kyle did a great job of coordinating with the contractor as well as with Waste Pro. Because when they were doing the street that I live on, somehow it was looking like the garbage pickup was going to be on that road. So Kyle had done a great job of having them hopefully come by before the work was done. And then they got lost somewhere and that didn't happen. So they were going to come down the street right after it had been laid. So I called Kyle and said, hey, that really can't happen. He contacted them. And they didn't come that day. They came. They actually offered to come the next day just for our street. I said, don't worry about it. Just wait till Thursday instead of Monday. I talked to all the neighbors and they were fine with that. But it has carried on that I called Kyle a few weeks later and the drivers have incorporated this into their driving process. Typically garbage trucks stop, go, stop, go, stop, go. Very hard for no particular reason, only moving 10 feet at a time. So they stopped doing that. I watched them out my window for a couple weeks and they go very slow and stop because that creates like heaving to the asphalt, especially during the summer months, even if it's been there for a while and it gets hot and they do a quick takeoff and a quick stop, that starts heaving the asphalt and over time it's going to create potholes, etc. So if they keep that going, which is wonderful, it's going to extend the life of our road, so that's pretty cool.
Cool.
They're doing a good job.
Any other general business, or can we go home? How about a motion to adjourn? All right, second? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? I didn't think so. All right, everyone have a good night.
Second.